knowledge is in the lineage, because time is not linear. Lineage is not linear, but it's vertical, like, or it's horizontal. It's horizontal.
So what will it take for, what is required for recovery, for the society like this to recover?
Oh man, yeah, that's a really deep one, because when I really get present to the situation, it's like, this has never happened before. You know, like, we really are writing history as we're moving through this situation, all of us, every single being. And what I see is, I mean, where we're at with the, first of all, society. There was already a huge change coming with uploading that into basically it being existent on a cloud too, as well as in the present life-to-life connections, word-of-mouth connections, you know, and it can be on different planes. It could be, you know, radio, broadcasting, frequency, sound, music, all that is a whole dimension in itself. And then going into the social networking and different kinds of ways to grow your ecosystem, grow your community, without it having to be exclusively in person.
Which, yeah, the internet was originally handed off to the public through the military.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes sense, right? It's a big way of keeping in contact through the change. So now that...
You know, it's interesting to hear, like, I don't know where I heard this or if you heard this with me, the scenario where the troops were going through the desert and they had GPS, and the other people didn't know, wouldn't have expected for any troops to come through on a desert, because you wouldn't be able to see and all this stuff. But they had GPS, a technology that was unknown at the time, supposedly, as the story was told to me. So it caught the other people off guard.
Yeah, and I mean, it's always been that, you know, what kind of technologies are available to conduct what is the most dense but light thing. Like, it's a paradox in itself, which is what makes it be what it is. And yeah, I definitely hear that. I also feel, where I was coming from when I originally brought that forward was coming from a perspective gauging how an organism works with itself, right? So in nature, usually, the organism has a way of, like, exchanging with its environment, osmosising, and growing symbiotic relationships, growing connections. You know, like, birds would come to a certain tree, like all sorts of things. Different kinds of ants would live underneath the bark or something, like it'd be a perfect condition for this, and it makes the whole place flourish in its way. So if we're looking at the human species to do that too, as, like, we're always, wherever your being is, and this is a distinction, wherever your being is, you're giving a type of life force energy. And so however you live is actually telling your own matrix how to form itself. So we are growing our own neural connections by conducting our consciousness not only within our bodies, but also throughout the plane. And so what I feel has occurred with this upgrade is that there's now the ability to see how many more dimensions that makes in every now moment, even though it's always been there, and some have been able to tap into this before, and for some nothing's changed, but for others it's like everything that was being funneled energy into is now like just a closed cube instead of it being like interactive and alive.
That makes me think about like scenarios where like Hurricane Katrina, where just here comes some weather, get ready, and then whenever the weather comes and fully grounds itself, it could change the entire landscape so quickly.
Mm-hmm. And this was something that was also in a lot of biblical tales with, like, there were lots of stories about groups of people that were just, like, not living well. That they had some type of ulterior, like, motive. Or that they, I think it even mainly said in the cities, but basically just calling attention to the fact that when people admit their intentions, that it's heard and it actually creates something, especially when there's a group of people, when people gather. So people gather in the cities a lot of times because, the cities have a life of their own. Like they say the cities never sleep. But it's not necessarily the city that's alive, it's the people that animate it and that are there. So when people are in places like cities that have a big influence on how to influence what the people think and feel while they're walking through it, it charges the atmosphere. So in a lot of biblical tales, there was always this story about how all the storms would always go and knock the cities down and be in places where people were disrespecting life, and that it would just wipe it all out because nature would need to balance out its own ecosystem. But there's a lot of talk about how this whole modifying the weather, or like changing the way plants germinate, or messing or interfering with natural processes from the outside, it's shown to, I've seen it firsthand of how simple it is to modify what the reality looks like. Just like how easy it is to put makeup on someone's face. It's really simple and it makes a big difference, but it's not really there. Like, it doesn't really last, and it's not really real. And you can see that over time if you have the patience to really sit with yourself. You can feel, like your body will know the difference. But I can see that happening, and it's like a part of me really wonders, like this has been obviously going on for a long time. So how long has this been going on, and can it come to a place where there can be some type of integration? Because I feel that there are different forces, but why does there have to be a totality is what comes to mind, but
why does it have to be abrupt? Or like
why does one need the other to be a certain way for it to be? Because like in truth, you get to be, and you are already. So what's the why does there need to be some type of like external changing?
The true currency is medicine. I don't know if this is related, but the currency of any society is medicine, even food. So there has to be some system in place, some kind of working, so to speak, for the medicine to be created for the people who need it. And like,
So,
if
yeah.
if you're not able to get the medicine, if the roads aren't clear or whatever, there's
What I'm hearing is this age-old story of, basically like Pandora's box. It's like, it started, like once it's in motion, like now it's just like the whole lion and the lamb scenario. Like now that there's some type of, it's like a domino effect.
I guess that's the thing. Is like, are the humans the top of the food chain, the apex predator, as
Well, the thing is that humans are on this plane, right? This is, if you want to get really the most physical, we're on this physical plane. We have access to other dimensions, for sure. And there are other beings that live on those dimensions, for sure. And in fact, the larger part of us doesn't even live on this physical dimension, and it won't be where we reside. But while we're here on this physical dimension, it's so like matter of fact that whatever you do with your matter has an effect on, like, in the spiritual realms. So it's like what you do here.
Do you feel
really,
like you've been there?
Huh?
Like, do you feel like it'd be kind of like Mount Olympus?
Mount Olympus. Say more about this.
To be like not in so much in the physicality, locked in the, like, limited in the physicality.
I don't feel like I'm limited in the physicality. Like, that's the thing, is once you're seeing it from that perspective, you can get how this is a very temporary experience, this physicality, but it has a lot of impact.
Mm-hmm.
So there becomes this knowing of this eternity.
Mm-hmm. Right, that's a good word. Wow.
And so once you know that eternity, and that's the thing that, everything wants to keep someone busy so that they don't remember it, so they forget.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the truth. And if you sit long enough, you'll remember. Every single being, I don't care where, who or how you are. If you sit long enough, you'll remember. But with yourself, right? Not.
Yeah, sometimes I think that that's what getting buried in a coffin is. You think you're, like, not tethered to the body anymore, and then you are just there to be with yourself.
Yeah, to be honest, like, I can't imagine what happens if you put your body in a coffin. For me, I would never want that.
Because as long as you have a will, the will regenerates the body.
Well, but that's the thing, is that at a certain point, because we're stewarding so many different rings of consciousness, so at a certain point, it becomes out of the physical.
Yeah, I could see that.
It
bursts out of it.
Yeah, because we're not meant to stay here.
That makes so much sense.
Like, we're visitors here, and we get to do some really amazing stuff and, like, improve the plane. But, like, we're not stuck here. Like, to think that is already to go into, like, an eternity of madness.
Yeah.
Because, first of all, who would put someone in a victimhood role of being stuck here, If anything, it's a gift here. It's the highest gift to get this experience. So, coming at it like that, you first of all, it's a gift to be here, but at the same time, it was a choice to come here. So, like, it's a gift to be here, but only if you remember that you chose to come here. And that choosing to come here is actually a descent. It is. Because if we really remember where we come from, this is not everything. This is not it. Like, I don't know how many times I've gone through this now. It's like, this is just not it. It can't ever be. Like, if I'm trying to gauge myself only from the material way, like, it's already skewed. So, like, it's been going on so far from however long that it could never be what it is that I feel on the inside.
But there may be potential for that, though.
Sure, there's always potential, and that's what